Hi, everyone, and welcome to Community Conversations, a virtual panel series highlighting today's trans leaders and advocates. For those who don't know me, my name is Vanessa Cervantes, she, her pronouns, and I am the Social Impact and Partnerships Manager here at Trans Lifeline. Thank you so much for being here. So before we dive in, I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that we are gathered during Black History Month. This is a time to honor and celebrate the profound contributions of Black communities and especially Black trans femmes whose leadership, resistance, brilliance, and care have shaped many of the movements that are part of today. I feel deeply honored to share space with panelists who embody that legacy of excellence, leadership, and impact. So thank you for being here once again. As we move into the conversation, I also want to ground us in the intention of this space. Community Conversations is meant to be safe, affirming for all TGI Plus folks, wherever you are in your journey. We also welcome our cis allies, friends, and supportive loved ones who are here to listen and learn. It's the mouth. To help us hold that intention, I do want to quickly name a few community guidelines. So the first one is please engage with kindness and respect in the chat and throughout the conversations. Any harmful or dismissive comments aren't aligned with this space and will result in removal. As some of today's topics may feel heavy, so if you do feel like you need to take a pause or take a breather, like please step out at whatever point and then join us when you're ready. And then also when sharing reflections or asking questions, remember that this is a shared and affirming space. So just be mindful of others. And then lastly, we will have dedicated time for audience Q&A. So feel free to hold on to your question until then, or just drop it in the question box and we'll answer it at that point. With that said, it's truly an honor to introduce to you today's panelists, leaders who I deeply admire, who continue to uplift and care for our community in powerful ways. Today, we are joined by Calypso Jeté Balmain, community advocate and ballroom legend, Luckie Alexander, trans advocate and founder of Invisible Men, and lastly but not least, Miss Quei Tann, recording artist, comedian, and actor. Thank you all so much for being here, and we're excited to learn from you and to hold this conversation together. So to help us to get started, I would love to invite you all to briefly introduce yourselves and share about who you are and what the work that you do.
Would you like anyone to go first?
Go for it.
Okay, so I am Luckie Alexander. I am, like you said, the founder of Invisible Men. I'm a dad, I'm a grandpa. I'm also the artist responsible for the All Black Lives Matter mural on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm gonna pass it to Calypso.
Hey everybody, my name is Calypso Jeté Balmain. I am an international showgirl. I'm an advocate. A lot of my work has to do with creating safe space for community, as well as mothering so many LGBTQA youth within the community. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Quei. Um, like Vanessa said, I'm an actress. I've been in some TV shows that you may know, like American Horror Story, or a scandalous one like America's Next Top Model. I've done some things, and now I've shifted things in my career, and I'm a comedian now, and I'm in school to be a social worker. So that's what I'm doing.
Mm. Thank you all so much for sharing so openly, and again, welcome. So today's conversation centers on redefining love and relationships on our own terms. And as trans people, we carry the powerful gift of self-determination. We have the ability to be intentional about how we build relationships, how we understand love, and how we define partnerships, care, and commitment for ourselves. So today is really an invitation for us to really reflect on what it means to show up fully for our partners, our chosen family, our friends, and our broader community while also protecting ourselves. So today, as we move into the conversation, I do want to invite everyone, including our panelists and our listeners, to hold a few reflections in mind. The first is, how do we love deeply without losing ourselves? How do we build meaningful connections while still maintaining clear, healthy boundaries? And what does it look like to create relationships that feel aligned, affirming, and truly sustainable on our own terms? So just hold on to that throughout today. So with that said, let's jump into our first question. And anyone can answer at any point, popcorn style. The question is, what does it mean for you to redefine love and relationships on your own terms instead of accepting definitions that were never built with you in mind?
Well, I'll start. Redefining love to me is understanding my needs and what I actually want in life. Um, Being young, I had to navigate, and I was so naive to like the different things that I just wanted to be in somebody's care. But as I got older, I started to realize what is it that I really need within a relationship? How can I take those needs while respecting my boundaries, respecting my partner's boundaries or whoever in the situationship I'm in, their boundaries, and just respecting myself. It had a lot to do with respecting myself because it was all learned behavior from what I saw from cis heteronormative relationships. And so I tried to take that upon myself. And I honestly thought that I was living very delusional at the moment, until I had to break down and say, like, okay, so what is it that I want as an individual, what makes me happy versus what makes others happy? And I had to start living for myself.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Um, it's so interesting. I've never been lucky in love, and I hope you don't mind if I spill your tea, Vanessa. Vanessa is one of these girls who, at least me, I've always seen in a relationship. And at first, I thought it was, well, maybe it's because I'm trans, or maybe it's because I'm this, or because I'm that. And I'm like, no, honey, it's just sometimes it's just, you know, you just may not be lucky in love. And, you might say maybe it's because you're successful or who, for whatever the rhyme or reason is. But what I've just done is I've just did like, and I'm not a relationship girl. I'm a relationship girl. I'm a love girl. I'm such a romantic. Do not get me mistaken. Um, I just had to redefine for me sort of what that looks like. And sometimes that is a fling, or it is a hookup, or it is, whatever it is I got. And I don't mean that like I let someone, take advantage of me or like, exploit me or whatever. But my relationships just haven't looked like, these multi-year, romance that you put on a movie screen. It looked different. They've just been short and like little stars. They, went out and exploded really quick. And yeah, and so that's sort of been my definition of love thus far. And I know that that's what it's like for other people as well. I know I'm not alone in that. So yeah.
So kind of tagging in on what everybody else was saying. For me, I just got to the point where I required respect, I required communication, I required honesty, I required us to listen to each other because hearing each other is different than listening. You can hear me all day, you can repeat what I say, but hearing me is different than listening. I mean, listening is different than hearing.
I'm glad, Quei, that you outed me in such a public way. But I'm also gagging because also lucky, like what you just mentioned, I've heard you say that before, such a long time ago, and I follow those guidelines, and Quei, like you've seen me in multitude of relationships through, my youth and plus. Um, and I have always been a very relationship girly. But what I've learned in relationships is whether it's T for T or T for cis, like people can still be a-holes. And it's about how you show up in those relationships and also what you demand in those relationships. Which for me, the way that I learned how to love and how to like allow people to love me actually came from like my soul sister who is also trans. And she taught me how to build intimacy in a platonic way. She taught me how to love someone and not require anything other than just love. Um, which it guides me into my next question that I have for y'all. How did you learn about like what love looks like and how to be loved? Was it self-taught? Was it another trans elder? Was it a family, a friend, a lover? I think those experiences are really unique, and I would love to just hear like how was that for y'all? You can sit with it, simmer.
Pop in here. Um, Honestly, I'm still learning what that looks like. You know, I've been through several experiences and different types of relationships and different lengths of relationships. So everything, nothing is the same. People aren't the same from person to person to person. Like maybe the qualities might be similar, but there is something very individual about everyone. So I'm still learning about who I want to really embrace, or how I want to really embrace love and what that looks like for me.
This is going to sound so wild. I learned about love through acting because as an actor, you you experience a lot of things or you imagine a lot of things before you actually like experience it. I know India Moore talked about like getting married on the set of Pose before her actual wedding and like what a mind fuck that is. And like that was me in acting class, that was me in auditions. And I remember I had a teacher, I like did this scene and he was like, he was like 40 or something at the time and he was like, so this scene that you just did with your classmate, this looks like a hookup. We need to make it look like a marriage. And so honestly through like I mean, look, seeing like what love looks like was really through like reading about it, acting it out, which is very interesting. And, you know, who's to say that that is healthy? I don't know, but that is my truth.
Um, I'm like 50-50 on the fence. I think that when I can be a little stingy when it comes to love, I think that for me, being loved is somebody giving me their time when I don't ask for it. Um, I have learned what I do not love. So I take from other people's relationships and I see and be like, oh, I don't know if that like will work for me. And just having that feeling, just the feelings that erupt. Like I can be talking to somebody and literally like they'll do one thing and I'll be over them and I'll be like, yeah, I don't think this is like for me. I think I have to go do a little more redefining of myself and not be so headstrong. And I think the biggest thing have to go into it is just trusting people. And I know it sounds crazy, but as a trans individual, I feel like it's harder for me to trust individuals that seek me out because I never know what their underlying intentions are. And so in my head, I start to paint narratives and pictures that is probably not good. But that also tends to like pull me away and protect my energy and protect me from being vulnerable to people again. Yeah.
That, yeah, I will, what I want to add to that, to what y'all mentioned is my mind is just going to a blank now. Because you touched on a subject that I was going to go into next. But I feel like, oh, I got my thought. What I always tell my sisters is date how you date your friends, right? When we show love to our sisters or our chosen family, we hold them to such high regard. We have these boundaries, we have these lists for us to engage, right? And then when it comes to like dating romantically or even cultivating other relationships, like those standards seem to like drop, you know? And it's like for me is are we placing more value to a random person romantically versus those who were cultivating intentional relationships? And if so, why is that the reason? Um, but through all like those lived experiences that I've had and that I share with my family, um, it begs the question that I'm going to pose to y'all is, what does it mean to show up fully in a relationship while maintaining boundaries and protecting yourself, your sense of self, like you mentioned, Calypso? There's things that you do. Um, but I would love to hear more about in depth, like what does that look like for y'all? You're muted, Calypso.
No, wait, sorry. Can you repeat? Sorry, can you repeat the question real quick? It just like it went
It
through
was,
my head.
I know I talk a lot. The question is, what does it mean to show up fully in a relationship while maintaining boundaries and protecting your sense of self? And relationships could be friendships, it could be chosen family, it could be, as a house mother, it could be as a colleague, it could be in community work, not just romantic, it's in any kind of way.
So I'll jump in while everyone's thinking. Um, I think for me, it's being able to one talk to each other and talk about like what kind of boundaries and be very clear and concise about what those boundaries look like and how to respect them and what that looks like. Um, I think also understanding that we're all different people and leaving that space for us to like different things, to do different things, to put more value in the different things. But also, I think along with that, also is alignment, making sure that maybe you are different people and you think different things, but make sure that there's something that aligns you within this relationship, regardless of what kind of relationship it is.
Yeah, my therapist said something about like she was like contrasting something, and I think this is like a similar fit. Sometimes people can like bump up against your boundaries and like for me, and that's like it's sometimes that's okay. Sometimes that's, you have to like reinforce them. But I think the real thing is like, do we have a difference in values? Like that's really sort of where I'm like, I get sort of my antennas go up. But as far as like me personally, I have this theory. Okay. So I'm, I feel like when I feel like in a tr like a heteronormative sort of relate dynamic where like the guy is dominant and the woman is submissive, I feel like as a woman, you have to sort of navigate that and navigate your boundaries in a different way so you're not exploited. However, if you're a top like I am, excuse my French, is top a bad word? Stream my new single, I'm a Top, on all streaming platforms. When you're a top like I am, when you're like maybe the more dominant person in the relationship and the dynamics isn't heteronormative, I find that I kind of come to there's like a level of like I don't know like a different level of respect I find it's a little bit more equal. I don't really have a I'm not with a guy who's like trying to dominate me or trying to make me submit or is wanting all of this labor out of me. So I feel like I don't have to do bend over backwards sort of like make these boundaries. Like I am really only attracted to guys or in engaging with guys in an intimate setting who like, want to be additive to my life and not take.
For me, what I've learned, what I've learned over the years is capacity. And that's a big word that I didn't like take in. And just knowing the capacity I have to take within any type of relationship, how much of myself I can give, where that means like if I have to be emotionally available or having boundaries set, like I can't be there all the time. I can't be there, like this. I don't like X, Y, and Z. And then just being honest. I know sometimes it's really hard to like when you have to be honest with people because you don't want to hurt them. But I like to practice being honest to people to let them know, like, hey, this is how I feel, this is how you made me feel. or this is how I feel about this situation rather than like trying to attack them. You get what I'm saying?
I live. Good. So you are just going straight into the next question each time. I'm living for this. Um, no, but I think when it comes to relationships, multiple relationships, right, not just romantic, there is moments of conflict that arise. And as you're talking about it, Calypso, it goes into my question of like, when there is conflict or there is discord within the relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it's chosen family, whether it's a parent, um, how do you navigate that in ways that centers care, accountability, and stability?
Honestly, I love this one because having so many kids that I mentor, children, different personalities come in, it's really about having boundaries and following through with your boundaries and the consequences that follow. Because I feel a lot of times I have allowed people to slack because I care so much about them. And I'd be like, oh, you did what? Okay, well, I'm hurt by it. I'm gonna just let it pass. Rather than being practicing that open communication, that honesty to say, like, hey, like I feel this way about this situation. And during this situation, I feel there could be a better resolution rather than, me just cussing you out. And then within that same sense, talking with one another to, like Lucky said earlier, to listen and comprehend and understand. So we respect each other. And I feel when we have that respect level and that respect level is built, then people have a more understanding of, okay, this is more serious. Because I feel within any chosen family, if it's not more so like I'm related to you, because I always think back to my kids. I'd be like, I'm not your biological mother, but I chose you to be my child. So since I'm choosing you to be my child, I'm gonna let you do like what you need to do. But at the same time, I have boundaries set in place that if you do not follow through with these boundaries, there are consequences that follows like any normal relationship or in society itself.
Thank you for sharing. Quay, oh,
I the way that I handle confrontation now versus before is that before I would I would want someone to just get it, right? I would argue at the person and I would just want you to just sort of understand and then do the thing I want you to do. And now I just lay it all out on the table. I'm upset because you forgot that it was Valentine's Day. I'm upset and I want you to like, and we still have 4 hours left for Valentine's Day. So just go ahead and say happy Valentine's Day to me. Go run to the store and get me, you know what I mean? I'm not, I don't want you to just know. I'm just gonna tell you. And I think just putting it all out there and just being like, listen, this is what hurt me. And because I feel like so many people, and I do think this is an American thing, it's like of justice, of like, I can't, I can't let you win. I can't let this person get over on me. And it's like, I'm not trying to win anything, no one, this isn't this whatever, this disagreement, this discord. I love that word. This discord isn't public. This is just between you and I. And my feelings are already hurt. How can we come to some resolve? And that's it.
I think for me, conflict is interesting because for me, because of the population that I deal with, there's a lot of there's a lot of things that people are going through. So understanding why someone may have a conflict is a bigger part for me. Is understanding why is this happening. If I can understand that, then I can address it in that way. Like, why are you having this issue, or why is your feelings hurt about this? how can we fix this? How can we make sure that we resolve this now solid? That way it doesn't become a cycle. You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about it. Communication is real big for me, super big. Like, let's talk about it, because if I don't know something, I can't fix a problem. I don't know there that happens. I can't fix anything if I don't know it's there. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I did something to you if you don't tell me. So communication is going to be the biggest kicker when it comes to conflict resolution and really showing up for each other. That's it for me.
So this conversation actually inspired a different question. It's not on here. So it's going to be a surprise whammy for all of us. But I think in my experience as a trans person, both professional and personally, I've navigated a multitude of relationships where I no longer speak to individuals that were part of my life. And they could have been in my life for 5, 10 plus years, but they're not in my life anymore. And I say it the way that I do because for many folks in community, I find that the word that embodies is disposability. And there are a lot of folks that don't believe in disposing of people, which I don't see that as disposing. I see that as simply removing myself or the person out of the equation to have something different. Um, so my question to y'all is, have you ever had an experience within a relationship, any kind, where you unfortunately had to remove yourself from that equation or remove that person from your life because there was no accountability. There was no level of like wanting to work on things. And if so, like how did you navigate that either personally, collectively with the individual or with the situation? Um, and how did you move on or heal from that? It's
You
a tough
know,
question.
no, I got it. I got it. This is oh, it's so funny. Oprah recently did a whole conversation about, the people cutting off their family members and stuff. And I feel like the difference between that conversation and this conversation, all hurt, all hurt is hurt, but there are some systems and structures we have to look at. We are so marginalized in this society, and more times than not, when we gotta cut somebody off, it seems like it might be for safety. It seems like it might be to be like for our own self-determination. When we have to cut somebody off, and a lot of times we're the ones who've been cut off. Let's not forget that. We've been kicked out of the home, churches, schools. So oh, for a population that has been, so cut off from so much to now want to cut you off, oh, you must have done something. So that person for me was the first man I ever loved. That is my father. And I had to completely cut him out of my life. It is a it is a safety issue, right? It devolved, well, it just was always a safety issue, honestly. And that ended up becoming that entire side of my family. And, I'll never forget when I was really young, I had I guess trigger warning, a restraining order against my father. Um, and I had went to visit my dad's side of the family, just my cousins. We were all young, but they ended up telling my father that I was there. And my sister had to come save me. It was a whole thing, whole drama. And it was very scary. And I was like, oh, I could never let this happen again. So I ended up, just cutting off that entire side of my family, cousins, uncles, everything. And, now that I'm on TV and I have this public life and their social media, they've reached out and they have kids and family, the whole thing. And I just can't. I remember I was invited to a baby shower. Oh God. I was invited to a baby shower and I said, I can't go. And I asked after the baby shower, I asked after the baby shower, was my father there? And they said, yes, he was. And they again invited me to something, knowing, I mean, when I say that it is a safety issue, it is a safety issue. They invited me somewhere with someone where there was a safety issue. And, unfortunately, I have to choose my literal life over a relationship with other folks. Now, I did meet with my cousin in New York across the country. I met with him one time, but that many years ago and found out I actually found out I have a younger brother. No clue. I, I know. It is hard. But again, I will say, and this is my last thing I'll say, when trans people who have been excommunicated from everything excommunicate you, there's a problem.
Well, I'll pop in there. I don't know how to heal from that type of situation. Um, that situation is too close in time frame for me right now, so I'm still dealing with it. So I think that for folks that are trying to deal with it, I think giving yourself grace and understanding, I can't even say understand, give yourself grace. And I think that's all I got though.
Um, for me, I have a problem of always seeing the good in everybody, even when they have done me wrong or do people wrong. I always try to see like the positive things. And like, I think the main thing for me would be when I think of myself highly as a really nice outgoing person, give back and everything, and I do so much for good. So when I have to cut somebody off, there is that concern of focusing on myself, but there's also that concern that I know that later down the line they're gonna come back. Like they're gonna circle back because I didn't do nothing wrong to them. And I always go out my way, like probably more than like other individuals to give them so much. And I realized that a lot of people that I have cut off, speaking of like chosen family, have been like younger individuals. And I feel like in that mindset of them being so young that they need to sometimes go out on their own experience life and then come back and understand what they were missing. Or sometimes, just go out in life and maybe they might find something better that can like elevate them. How I heal from it is honestly this sounds crazy. I joke about everything. Like I was in a toxic relationship, my ex hit me in a car and almost killed me. I joke about that all the time. Or like when like me and my dad disowned me when I was 14. Like, and I didn't have that great of a relationship with him because I didn't know him that well. But I joke about that all the time. Even like when kids have like gone and left and everything, like I make light of it because that helps me navigate easier. And I just go like, oh, okay, like it's funny. It's a key. Like I've let it go off my shoulders. That might sound a little sick, but it's okay.
No, I don't think it sounds sick at all. I'm a comic, so you can make anything funny. Yeah, I totally support that.
Yeah. I also concur with y'all said. I also heal through laughter and making light of the situation just because I think about, am I going to sit here and cry about it? Or am I going to laugh about it and move on? And so I choose to laugh about it and move on. Um, but Lucky, I think, the comment you made about like just giving yourself grace is very important because I think we can be really hard on ourselves as trans folks. We already do that already since, the messaging that we get in the world. And just giving yourself grace is enough. And until you get to a point of like what healing looks like or how you move forward, just give yourself grace until you get to that point. I think is one of the best things that I've done for myself in my journey. Um, I want to ask this question directly to Lucky, actually. As the founder of Invisible Men and a powerful advocate and artist within the trans community, what have you learned about building intentional community?
Well, I have learned quite a bit. Um, Building intentional community for a population that I'm specifically part of as trans masculine folks. That's what Invisible Men does. Um, we're looking at a population that is often mistreated, overlooked, dismissed. Like especially if you pass, right? Oh, you're a guy. You don't need anything. So dealing with this population, I also have to take in all of the things that come with that population and come with those traumas, right? And so we've learned to create spaces that not only help kind of heal some of that, but also provide spaces where they don't have to be in survival brain. So understanding the different facets of the way people respond to trauma is one of the ways that we've learned to kind of build community in that way because we all walk the same type of path specifically in that realm. Like we just have to be again, give each other grace, and we have to give each other that space to breathe. We give each other spaces to not have to survive in the moment. Even if it's just an hour and a half or 2 hours, or come hang out with us, we give people that space to just not be in survival brain all the time for that moment. But definitely with the intentional work that we're doing, it's difficult because a lot of people are coming with a lot of trauma and having to take that and hold that, as well as provide things and so it stretches a person thin, and I've stretched my team as thin, but we all understand what we're going through. So that's all I got.
I love that. And I just want to say again, Lucky, you have done so much amazing work, and I always appreciate how you build community and how you continue to build community regardless of whatever you're going through in life. Like, I think that's the way that you show up for folks is not only inspiring, but also just really motivated to me as someone that does community work, that it's still doable, um, even when you're experiencing your own stuff. So I appreciate you being here.
And
Um,
I just one more moment, one more second.
Go for it.
I also want to express that it's not just like Invisible Men is for trans masculine folks, but I think it's important, especially in this time that we're in right now, in this era, um, that we work as a community and we collaborate with each other. We make sure that we link in all of the organizations across community, across allyships, across everywhere, that we become collaborated and we work together to be a louder, bigger voice. That way we make sure everybody's okay at the end of the day. So I think collaboration is definitely one of those good, solid things that we all need to do together.
I agree.
I'm done.
Oh, I agree. I think collaboration, especially when community, there is, maybe some discord. I think at the end of the day, as community, we should always come together and support each other, because all we have is each other at the end of the day. So, um, my next question is for Ms. So. As a mother in both the Kiki scene and the mainstream ballroom scene, how do you cultivate love, care, accountability within your house and the community? And while showing up for your kids, how do you ensure you also showing up for yourself?
Oh, well, thank you for this question. um, okay, so um, the reality of it is, oh, I just do so much. The first and most important thing is I choose them. I choose them to be my children, and from after I choose them, like I like to sit down with them and talk about our relationship that we have, like shared values, morals. What are some boundaries that you like? What are some things you don't like? I check in with them on a regular. I let them know that you can reach out to me at any time, any place, whatever I'm doing. I drop everything I'm doing for them, and I show that not just by word, but example. I show up in times when I can, and when I cannot show up, this is for my kids. When I cannot show up, I always make sure they're taken care of still, even if I can't be there. I always have like something lined up. Like if they go out of state and I'm not there, oh, I have a sister and a brother who I will make sure you are in good hands that are not going to do nothing crazy or make you feel any type of way. Um, I don't judge them. Um, I have done so much in my life that I feel like whatever you do or decide to tell me, I'm not going to judge you or care. I might be like, okay, like during this moment, you should not have done that. But at the same time, I'm not going to judge you. Like we're part of the community. You have to make ends meet, whatever you have to do. Okay, just be safe about it. Boundaries, going back to boundaries, I set boundaries and then I set those consequences to those boundaries, so they fully understand. Okay, I do not like blah 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 blah. So please do not do that. Um, when we have conflict, I like to keep myself accountable. I like to own up to my mistakes. Even when I know like it's so hard and I'm like, I'm so wrong. I like to be accountable so then they can be accountable at the same time. I'm very loyal to them. I build trust. I am vulnerable in times. They see me cry. They see me like crash out and everything. And I keep that open. I keep that open and I explain myself after why I did these things. Now, how do I take care of myself in the long run? Is I have learned this new word called capacity recently that I have to take upon myself to be transparent with them that I am one person. And although it looks like I am Superwoman and I go and I could do like X multiple things, and I will, I have a capacity limit. And those are the moments where I need to like rest and eat and sleep and everything. But the bad part is if it's for my kid, I'm going to go foot and neck and down. But I also the biggest thing is I try to make sure they feel safe. They feel safe, wanted, cared for, and they have an environment where they can grow and make mistakes. Even like when we have practice, I tell them, there's a space for you to make mistakes. So when you make mistakes here, when you go out into the world, if you make the mistakes, you learn how to grow from them. And that you always have an A, B, C, D, E, F, G plan. Like just because I always have to trust in them, just because something doesn't work out one way that you're used to, try it another way, because that might be the way that gets it done. So you're not just stuck in one boat. And what I tell my trans daughters, I like my trans daughters and my trans sons, I always let them know, like, you're trans. Like you being trans is like a gift and a curse at the same time. And so since it is a gift, you have to use your power and everything. I always tell them don't live delusional heteronormative society because they want to be like some of them want to live stuff and I'd be like, even though you want to live in a heteronormative society way, you also got to remember that you're trans and that you are blessed being trans. You're blessed being trans. Use that to your advantage. Don't allow people to run over you. Don't allow people to take advantage of you because they think that, oh, that's just a normal man. That's just a normal woman. No, like use both duality to get what you need and succeed in life because you're going to make an impact in somebody else's life. And that's it.
I live. And if you take anything away from what she said, if you're trans, it is a gift. And use that to your advantage because it is a gift. My next question is for the one, the only, Miss Quei Tann. As a multi-talented artist who has graced the runway, TV, film, the comedy stage, and now in music, how do you build authentic relationships within the industry while protecting your peace? What boundaries or practices help you maintain balance as your platform continues to grow?
People in the industry is fake. Um, it's true. I think that the biggest thing that I learned from myself pretty early on is that, you know, and you'll hear it in interviews, and I think Emma Stone or Emma Watson talked about this, like, oh, we love each other. We love each other. It's like you're coworkers, you know what I mean? And being a Black trans woman on set, you don't really even come from the same community, the same culture as a lot of these other people, right? Now, I haven't I didn't do Pose, so I didn't work with Angelica and India and stuff like that. But when I have come across trans women in the industry, we have a sisterhood and a bond, and as we, as just as we do, because we have been through so much together. And so I think one of those first things was just understanding, you know yeah, you may be getting close to this showrunner or this writer or this actor or this famous person. That doesn't mean that they're going to be helping you get your next job. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to be looking out for you. And that's just sort of what it is. And I've had I have a friend. Oh, I have a friend I did a show with, and he's a cis guy. He's a cis Black guy, and he's hurt. I mean, he's still hurt that like he gave all of so many years to this project, um, and he just doesn't feel like they are looking out for him or wanting to give him a job or just like help him to succeed. And he's still doing the work. He's still booking to this day, but it's like, can you help a brother out? And I just tell him that it's like, unfortunately, that is just how it is. And um, this is such an interesting question because I'm going through it right now, right? I was working so much in the Biden administration, and then Trump came around. And then something different came around, and it changed. Excuse my French. Something different happened, and it changed a lot, not just with like it changed stuff on every level, and it also reached my industry as well. And this is borne out with statistics. I'm not just making this up. The roles for trans women, Black trans women, it just shrunk on itself. I think there were like 5 trans roles. Um, my bad, y'all. Anyway, so I'm just trying to tell my truth. And what I have learned is this is why I have put other things into my discipline as an artist. I'm not just doing acting. I started doing stand up. I've done stand up comedy with the Lavender Project. I'm doing stand up comedy with the Minority AIDS Project. I've done it with T.S. Madison. I've been flown across America. Wait till we get across the world. I'm gonna seek asylum and get out of here. I cannot, you know what I mean? I have just been I have been doing comedy and now I started making music, and it has just empowered me that even though my relationships with people in Hollywood, they are not as strong, or as, you know, I don't know, they're just not as strong as I would have liked for them to be. I've just accepted that, like, that is what it is. And instead of being bitter about it, I've moved on. I've moved on from wanting these people to help me, but I've continued on in my artistry. So I'll leave it there.
I love that. Thank you for that entertaining introduction to our Q&A section. You're good, love. We do have my voice. We do have one question so far. The question is, um, thank you so much for presenting these important questions. I'm going to be meeting with my birth mom tomorrow, but we haven't seen each other in over 10 years. How do you honor yourself when confronting the past, such as in this way I'm confronting mine? Any feedback to my situation is so welcome. Thank you again, y'all. Anyone can answer. Yeah.
I would just, oh, go ahead, Calypso. I would just have questions on, like, what is your sort of, I just need some context on, like, what is your, like, truth. So, like, for me, if I was meeting with my birth, father, let's say I had a different father, right? Um, I would have to, of course, let him know, obviously, I'm trans, right? I'm a woman. This is how I need to be, respected. There would need to be some, what we call in social work, some group rules. We got to pre-establish some rules on how we're going to communicate with one another. Um, and then I think if we can just get the values aligned, right? Like beyond the boundaries, as long as we can be aligned on the values of, I want to come into this respecting you, and I need you to come into this respecting me, just so that there's a level of, are we going to center care, right? If we are aligned on that, then I think that we can continue forward. So I would maybe do maybe you want to get some stuff in writing first. And then once you show up to the meeting, that initial meeting, a lot of the pre-work could have been done.
Um, for me, funny thing is, like, I grew up with my grandparents my whole life, and when I went to college, I wasn't really in communication with my grandparents. So, me before I transitioned, they were fine with that. When I transitioned, it was a different story. They never were, and I think when it comes to family, I think you have to play it by like how well you know your family. Like my grandparents have never been disrespectful, malicious, and have ill intent towards LGBTQI people. I know sometimes they will dead name me. They'll dead name me because that's what they're used to. That's the name that they grew up calling me. And they'll have the fact of saying like Calypso, 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 but I said the same. And my grandparents are like 68, 69 years old. My grandpa is 76. So I think sometimes me trying to push that like narrative on them, like, oh, call me this. I just be like, they care for me, they love me, they don't have no ill intention for me, so I kind of just like pass out. I think it's kind of like play by ear, like if is your safety at jeopardy, or what is it that you want from your parent in the long run, I think. And are they at a point in their life where they are like fully, what's the word I'm looking for, fully comprehensible of what's going on.
I'm just gonna echo both Quei and Calypso because that sounds really good. I'm not really good at it, so I'm not gonna make them.
Yeah, I think I will also echo the same thing. I can't really speak on this because I have a different relationship with my parents, but I also know that when I transitioned, I was ready to be homeless and be on the streets and just live my life as a woman. And so that mindset, I carry that with myself is if you're not for me, then you're not meant to be in my life, and I think relationships with parents are complex, whether they're supportive or they come around, like it's complex as it is. Um, but I'm gonna always tell my trans siblings, you matter more than anything in this world, so protect yourself. Um, and lead that exchange with love and compassion, but also make sure that, like Quay said, like you have something, at least for me, like I would have notes in my phone and say, I will accept this. If this happens, I'm stepping away because it then violates my protection or my ground rules. Um, but that's my takeaway from that. What I would, add. Do you have any more questions? We're almost at time in 2 minutes. Oh, we have one question. After having a hard conversation around relationship repair, what are some ways that help you regulate post-conversation, especially if you're still trying to build chosen community? Hmm. Asking for a friend. Quay, if you're speaking, you're muted, by the way.
I was reading with my mouth open.
Oh,
After having a hard conversation around relationship repair, what are some ways that you can regulate post conversation? Trying to build chosen community. Oh, well, the way I regulate, lay down, go to bed. Go to bed. I remember watching Real Housewives of New York and Kelly, what's her name? Kelly Bensimon. She was just had it. And Bethany screamed at her, go to sleep. And wow, there is really something about you want to reset your day. You can just go to bed and you can wake up and you can try it again. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways, my therapist says, you can suck on something sour like a lemon, put your hand in something cold. These are things that really help. You can do like a grounding exercise where you look at, okay, name me 10 blue things in the room around you. Okay, now nine things that look soft and just bring yourself down. Um, but sometimes, yeah, you just got to go to bed.
I think with it comes to regulating after, I think you just got to go back and or reinstate your boundaries, not with the person, but with yourself first. Like, what is it that I want from this? What is it that I choose? Especially with dealing with new people, being holding yourself accountable, and having that vulnerable moment with yourself to say, like, is this what I want to step back into? What are things that I learned from that conversation that I took away from that can make me like a better person and change myself? And what do I want to see in a person coming forward that I know if I want to allow them into my space?
I also think that everything that Calypso and Quay have also said is great, and um, I think it also is going to depend on whether there was some kind of resolution that happened within the conversation. Because if there isn't any resolution that happens within the conversation, there's nowhere to relax and figure out what happens next because that's still up in the air. So I think within the conversation, to make sure that there was some kind of resolution or resolve that happened before the conversation was over. And also, I think that around that, make sure that this is not a cycle that keeps continuing because you have to have these conversations. I know these are hard conversations that you're having, and the resolution is going to be just as hard to really sit down and talk about, okay, what do we do? in case we run into this bump again? How do we mend this so that it doesn't continue to be a cycle that you go through over and over and over, because that's just going to cause more pain.
Want to add to that is go for a hike, go for a run after the post conversation, recenter yourself, whatever that looks like. Um, and I think I definitely like what Lucky, what you said, I think spot on. But go on a hike or go to sleep. Either of those can be helpful to self-regulate. Um, so we are at time. Thank you all so much for being here today and for helping hold this space with care and intention.
Can I
Before we
add
close,
one thing?
I'd like to invite you. Yes, go for it.
Okay, just on the regulation, I forgot to add eat gummy bears. Go ahead.
Oh, lucky some things never change. Those gummy bears. Um, Before we close, I will invite you all to learn more about Invisible Men and their incredible work. Visit their webpage at invisiblemen.org. Um, you can also explore Trans Lifeline's resources library for supportive resources available across the US. And also, as a reminder, our hotline is always open for our TGI Plus community members who may need support. Someone to talk to or help getting connected to resources. You can reach us at 877-567-8860. Thank you again for showing up, for engaging in this conversation, and for continuing to take care of yourselves and one another. Thank you, Quei. Thank you, Lucky. Thank you, so. I appreciate you all, and happy everyone, and a happy Valentine's. Happy, happy, happy. Bye, everyone.